Hey guys, how are you going? It's your boy MKS here, back to you another video. Sorry this is really late, or at least a bit late, because I'm quite sad and I still live with my mum, so she didn't get she forgot to sort the ISP, Internet Service Provider out, or to pay for the internet basically. So she paid for it, and then luckily it didn't take as long as I feared it might to reconnect. I think she said it would probably take 24 hours, but actually, to be fair to them, it only took a short amount of time for them to reconnect us to the internet. So, but then after that, I just procrastinated a bit or whatever, or for whatever reason, it took me this long anyway. So I'll say sorry. It's quite late. 1 in the morning here in the UK, or just after 1 in the morning. So I even messed up trying to go. I meant to go to the gym, but by the time I got organised, I thought by the time I get there it'll be closed. So I decided not to go today. But anywho, it is what it is. So I thought I'd talk about some of my MKS, shall we say, philosophies or theories in life, and because it was a Tuesday, although it's technically not a Tuesday now, but I meant to upload it on a Tuesday. I thought I'd talk about theories due to alliterations, Tuesday theories and whatnot. I probably should break free from those alliterations and other patterns I use, maybe sometimes at least, just to mix up a bit. But anywho, I'll try and get to the point. So some of these probably aren't theories as such, or they're more just general thoughts that I have or whatnot. But yeah, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different. And so one of the things I meant to cover in October and November, as it was like, especially November for neurodiversity, and it's like October I was focusing more on dyslexia. But I was thinking there are three things I would love for, and I probably did mention them in October and even in November. I'm almost 100% certain, pretty much as much as I'm standing here now, that I mentioned them in October. I must have done at some stage, but basically I talked about some of my dreams. That one is to make independent schools for people with learning disabilities, because we learn differently. So those independent schools would help us to work on our strengths. And I was discussing this idea with one of my sisters, and she said that the problem is if you only learn what you're good at, when you come to things that you're not so good at, you will struggle, and I suppose if you're used to always winning or always doing well or whatever, as soon as you come up to a hurdle, shall we say, you might struggle to overcome it, because you're probably going to struggle to overcome it anyway. But you will be too used to sort of winning all the time, and sometimes you've got to take on adversity, and that's sometimes what makes dyslexic people good at business or other areas, like having to overcome adversity and getting used to failure and things like that, which is a theory many people have. On that note, just on that note, something I didn't think of before, but talking about theories, is that some people ask the question, are dyslexic people good at things in business in some cases, or in many cases, because we've had to, obviously not me personally, but many other dyslexics, because they've had to overcome, in their case, and they found ways to overcome and compensate for their dyslexia. Ironically, is it their weaknesses that make them stronger, like getting used to failure, things like that, which in business is quite important, really, I suppose, because most businesses, or probably all businesses, will fail at some point, I'm sure. Or is it because we have innate abilities that we're born with? And I'd like to think it's the latter, but many people argue it's the former, which is like we have had to overcome those problems and challenges and whatnot. So that's just a side note, although it is kind of on topic. But yeah, independent schools for people with learning disabilities, in my ideal vision, which could be changed, I thought it'd be quite interesting if they were funded by parents or parents of people with learning disabilities, or people with learning disabilities themselves. but people who wanted to pay for them, there could even be tax exemptions for paying for them, and maybe people with neurodiversity could be tax exempt due to the issues that many people with neurodiversity face. So I'd love to know what people think about that. But I was thinking they could work towards our strengths and then maybe look at ways, also teach the students how to use our strengths to work around our weaknesses, like delegate things that we're weak at, for instance. So that's one thing I thought would be quite cool, to have our own independent schools for people with learning disabilities. And I thought they could be funded by whoever wants to fund them, whether that's people with learning disabilities, parents or families of people with learning disabilities, or even businesses that might want to sponsor them or whatever, and they could get tax exemptions, and it could be good for their PR or things like that. So because that's the libertarian in me, not wanting to force the taxpayer to pay for things unless they want to. It would also, the teachers involved in those schools would not be ones. I'm not saying teachers are necessarily forced, special ed teachers. I'm sure most, if not all of them, pretty much all of them go into that career because they want to. It's not particularly well paid, I'm sure. So I'm sure no one's actually forced into it, so to speak. But I think schools themselves, they stick to a curriculum, which I think is very rigid, and it doesn't. My problem with the academic system is I don't think it really teaches people that well in terms of skills that we really need in the outside world. Like if I was going to go to a course, I would ask the question like, when am I going to use this outside of academia? Not to go to another level, like not to do a higher level course, but when would I actually use this in the real world, or what I'm going to call it? So like in business or in a career or in the charitable work I want to do or anything like that. When am I going to actually use this stuff, even to, like, well, very importantly, to pay bills or things like that. So, which actually reminds me of what initially I wanted to talk about in these videos, about like what my gripe about the academic system, and like how I don't think it, like some people have theories about how it's just meant to train us to be subservient workers and not to learn about the real economy or things like that. But I'll probably cover that another day, because I've completely forgotten about that point, and I wanted to stick to more businessy type of things, which is one of the things we can learn on in like independent schools, because like people like Richard Branson and other successful dyslexic and other successful neurodiverse people generally could teach us things about business or other areas where they're successful in, so we can have those potential careers, that kind of thing. And I'm going to move on that note, because I'm wary that this video, like so many of mine is over time. So number two, another thing I'd love for neurodiverse people to do is like learn and teach each other about business. So I was thinking, like, again, I know I probably covered this a month or 2 months ago, even, or 1.5 months or whatever it was ago, where I talked about like how some of the gripes people might, I don't know what the right word is, but issues or challenges, or why people might be put off running a business, or why people might tell you shouldn't run a business. And I was thinking of things like people might say you don't really know how to run a business, or you don't have the capital, or things like knowledge, experience, and things like that. So I was thinking that a lot of those issues could be solved through having a network of people with learning disabilities. Like, so those who have done well, people like Richard Branson or Jamie Oliver, or people like that, or even just, there's quite a few dyslexic entrepreneurs. Apparently in the UK, 20% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic, and in America it's 35%. So there are many who are not even famous, and I'm sure there are many with six-figure salaries as well. So they don't all have to be billionaires, of course, but and billionaires might be busy, so they might not be able. Well, of course they'll be busy, so they might not be able to. But maybe there could be tax exemptions again, like for people to mentor, because of the challenges people with neurodiverse conditions have. So I think it'd be quite interesting if we learn to network together and run businesses and like learn from each other. So folks like me who don't know much could learn from those who know a lot more, and also investing together as part of that as well. So business/investing. Another thing I was thinking, the third thing was to support each other on social media. I'm going to say like plugging my own channel as well. But a while back, probably about 2 or 3 years, 3 or even 4 years now, probably closer to 5 maybe. unfortunately, I didn't get very far with it. But I made a video about which some people might have seen, but here, watching this video as well, about dyslexics to get so many viewers and subscribers and whatnot. So if all possible, dyslexic people viewed each other's videos, YouTube videos or whatnot, or just generally support each other on social media, things like YouTube, TikTok, obviously, and whatever other forms of social media. That's another way we could earn our upkeep and become what I would class as financially independent. By that I mean, again, I discussed with one of my sisters before, and she was saying that financially independent, in her view, or what most people probably think of it as, is not relying on not having to have a boss. So you have your own. So you wouldn't need a boss or a job or stuff like that. But what I mean by financially independent is mainly that you don't have to rely on the state. So no one's forced to give you money, as no one really chooses to pay tax. I say, like, another theory I have in life, to be honest, a controversial one, the libertarian one, is enforced tax is legalized robbery. I say the same thing about militarism and like invading other nations. To me, both of those things, like taxes and militarism, the military-industrial complex and wars and things like that, which many people say is a racket, and I agree with them, are legal forms of robbery, because no one is asked whether they want to pay tax as an individual, and if so, where they want the money to go, how much tax they want to pay, or things like that. So as a libertarian, I think it'd be cool for us to make our own money legally and without taking away other people's freedoms. So these are three ways, I think, like having our independent schools which could teach us those skills, creating our own businesses and investing and supporting each other on social media. And there are a few other things I wanted to discuss, like a few other theories and things like that, but I'm conscious again that this video has gone on longer than I had planned. So hopefully on the 19th, I'm pretty sure it's the 19th, next Tuesday, almost 100% sure there's the 19th next Tuesday, I hope to remember and go through these philosophies and sometimes talk about my gripe with the academic system and how my theories about how it's there, in my view and view of many people, to like control us and make us subservient workers rather than think for ourselves and learn about the economy and how it really works. But as ever, if people disagree with my opinions, that's fine. And if someone says you're wrong about this and there's evidence to suggest otherwise, then that's cool. A lot of people say, like, for instance, that businesses, the government can, I heard someone say the government consults with businesses about what should be taught in schools, in which case you would think that the students coming out would have the skills ready for employment. But I suppose one fear I have is like AI. If AI is not my type of AI, like Angwinians, but artificial intelligence, like, my fear is if workers are replaced, they would have no real need for workers, or a lot less need for workers. But maybe I'm being a paranoid conspiracy theorist. I was going to say schizophrenic, then probably true. But I've heard a few people say it, so I suppose I've got to admit it's not me who's come up with this, but a lot of people say they're designed to make us subservient workers for the companies. And if you think about it, I wouldn't even blame them in a way, because who wants people to be in competition? Who wants to teach people real business so they can compete with you, rather than teaching them to be workers and fear business and fear running their own business and have those fears and anxieties so they can't compete with you? So, but maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick. So if anyone disagrees with me, I won't be arrogant enough to say for sure that I'm definitely right. But a lot of people say schools, I've not noticed this myself, but they say schools are built and they look a lot like factories. And the reason why is they're designed to make the next workers to work in factories or things like that. But again, if you disagree and you think, I mean, some people will argue, if you're not a big fan of the academic system, it's because you failed in it, and they might say if you worked harder or you're just having sour grapes or whatever. But that's what I've read and heard some people say. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up, because there are a few other things I wanted to say, as I say, but I'm conscious that people will get bored of this moron here waffling along. Peace and love on that note.